much for taking time out of your busy schedules to meet with us. Really happy to be here. Just to reintroduce everyone, I'm John. I'm the lead audit partner on this engagement. To my left is Megan. She's a manager on this engagement. We also have Matt. He is a senior manager on the engagement. And we also have Alex and Kelly with us today. Kelly's going to be taking notes for us, so if you'd like those after the meeting, we'd be happy to provide those for you. I don't know if you received these before the meeting, but here's copies of our agenda.
No, we did not. Thank you.
There you go.
Great.
And I'm going to just kick things off. Basically, I'm just going to generally let you know how things are going, and so far they've been going great. It's been a real pleasure to work with the employees at Fox Corporation. They've been very cooperative and provided us all the information we need to do a thorough audit. That being said, there are some small issues that arose, and we'd like to talk to you about those today and help you to resolve those. So if you don't have any questions at this point, I'm going to let Matt kick it off and talk a little bit about the structure of your audit committee.
Thanks, JP. Now, I know that you wanted us to discuss some issues with your audit committee composition. As of right now, it's composed of Caesar, Cordelia, and Kim Rock as well. Now, Cordelia and Kim you guys are gonna have potential issues with regulatory issues. Now, we know this is only a temporary fix and that you're looking to make changes on the audit committee. So we're gonna have Megan discuss the regulatory issues regarding those changes.
All right, so the SEC has some specific guidelines in place about audit committee independence. In response to some of the mandates under Sarbanes-Oxley, which deals with how to make management responsible when it comes to financial reporting. So we've created a flow chart for you here. You can take a look at that. That should address some of the questions you should be asking yourself when appointing people to the audit committee. But there are really two main takeaways that we'd like to discuss with you here in this meeting. One, no member of the audit committee can be considered an affiliated person of the company or any of its subsidiaries. So they can't be an employee, they can't be a manager, they can't be able to be influenced or control any of management's decisions when it comes to company policy. So they also can't even be related to management because that's under the umbrella of an affiliated person. You can't receive any fees from your consulting or advisory services to the business. So those are kind of the main takeaways under the affiliated person that we want you to be aware of. You also need to have a financial expert, and you can have one or more. And these are people who have a great understanding of GAAP. They know the ins and outs of your financial statements, and they also understand the role of the audit committee, so they're able to make valuable contributions when you're dealing with impending audit issues.
So where are our issues? Sounds like we have some.
Yeah, you do have some issues under affiliated people. Okay. So these, management, the CEOs cannot be, because you can influence the decision making of the corporation, which is really not good, because you're supposed to be able to make independent decisions about these audit issues, and you can't have any other interests that people like your shareholders could imply from your decisions. It's supposed to be completely independent.
So is it just me?
It's also Kim.
And Kim?
Yes.
Okay.
Because she has 30%.
30%.
30% of the revenues of Rock Media are derived from Fox Corporation, and that it does create an independence issue.
So she can be seen to have interests other than, impartial decision making.
So is it okay if I stay on the audit committee?
You are fine.
Okay.
In our opinion, you seem to be.
And an example of someone else who would fit on the audit committee would be George Aldheiser. He's the current director of internal audit at International Food. He's also a CPA and CFE, so he has the financial expertise and the independence requirements to serve on the audit committee. Again, this is just an example. We know that you're going to, in the end, choose your own audit committee. We just wanted to give you some guidelines to help you make those decisions.
Okay. Well, we appreciate it.
Yeah, and we believe that doing this will also, besides the regulatory concerns, will also increase shareholder confidence in your company. With that, Alex is going to talk to you a little bit about the background checks you've been performing on executives.
Yeah, great. So we understand currently that the CFO, Mr. Tanner, and the COO, Mrs. Lopez, have not received proof of their background checks in final form. I just want to talk about the steps that we've taken as a result and kind of show you the greater implication of that. Okay. So we checked with the HR manager, and obviously the policies in place of people above senior management get background checks, as well as The preliminary documents have been in, so that's all great, but the final documents haven't been completed, and as a result, not relayed to the board of directors. And no one has checked up on them, even after 6 months, so that's where we kind of see an issue. Obviously, this is not a material error, so I don't want to scare you, but we just want to make sure that the safety precautions are in place, because we kind of have your best interest in mind. And how I kind of think about this on a greater scale is that the CFO publicly signs off on financial statements, so we would want his background checks to be finalized. And, we want to make sure that the precautionary steps and the policies in place so we don't mislead your shareholders.
What did our HR director say about that? I'm surprised on this one.
They said, that they're going to follow up on it and we'll try to help next year to do it, but we just wanted to take the precautionary steps just in case and kind of get those documents in because it's so important and such on a public scale.
Well, we'll take it from the advisement and follow up.
Yeah, that would be great.
Yeah, we also recommend maybe in the future implementing this on a firm-wide basis, not only to executive employees, but also to just normal employees as well, to make sure that you have security measures in place and these background checks happen just on a firm-wide basis.
There's gonna be an associated cost to that.
Yes, but we feel that protecting your assets and making sure that you have the right people in place the benefits of that exceed the costs.
And while it is unlikely that an issue would arise, the cost of such issue would be substantial, and we believe that the smaller cost of, putting these procedures in place would be worthwhile. So we talked to you a little bit about the people at Fox Corporation. So with about 3 minutes left, we're going to spice things up a little bit and talk about some accounting adjustments. Yes. Megan, do you want to cover the contingent liabilities?
Yes, absolutely. So we understand that recently you've been named in a complaint filed by a consumer about allegedly tainting some dog food during production. This falls under a contingent liability issue. Kelly's going to talk to you a little bit about how this issue should be handled.
Yes, so we've received documentation back from your senior attorney, and we have copies of the letter for your reference. Sorry, I can't read you. And we've highlighted the important points in her letter. And as you can see, she's indicated that the liability is probable and can be reasonably estimated to be about $500,000. We also have a chart here for you that discusses how contingent liabilities should be treated. And as you can see from that chart, if a liability is probable and reasonably estimable, then it should be recorded as a liability. So we believe that you should have a $500,000 liability on your financials for this year.
Right, so not only is it a GAAP regulation that this happens, but it's also in the benefit of Fox Corporation. Because it's really, in being conservative in your financial reporting, it's in your best interest to inform your shareholders of any pending litigation, because if, in case the consumer was successful in this complaint, you'd want to take all of the necessary steps in your financial reporting to disclose this so that you were free of any pending, further liability from the litigation.
Yeah, no, I think we feel pretty passionately about our position on this matter. Not sure that we're even as exposed as we're kind of putting here.
Right.
Maybe that's the disconnect. Should we really report something if we're liable?
Well, you can seek reference from another legal counsel if you wanted a second opinion on the matter. However, the opinion that we do have here from your legal counsel is pretty clear cut on the matter, and we just want to protect you from the liability if this consumer was successful in the litigation. We wouldn't want to expose you to further litigation from shareholders.
Since there's documentation supporting that you were aware that it was probable and estimatable, if the complaint was successful, it would lead to some problems that you were aware and someone gave you advice that the litigation was a serious matter.
All right, well, we'll table it and
Yeah.
regroup
Sure.
internally first, get back to the tables.
So at this point, Alex, do you want to just briefly cover the adjustment to doubtful accounts?
Yeah, absolutely. So as you know, there's been a computer glitch error, and that's caused your balance for uncomfortable customer amounts to be understated by $34,500. And I know Kelly's going to talk about it, it's not material error, but we just wanted to let you guys know, and we're going to probably propose an adjustment that will increase your operating expenses and decrease your asset account by that $34,500.
The reason that this concerns us is because it was an internal control failure. So obviously you realize that it's not a material number. But because there's no control in place to catch that kind of an error, it's possible that a material error could go through. So we want to recommend that you improve the monitoring of your internal controls so that we can decrease the likelihood of these kinds of errors, so that they don't cause problems for you in the future.
So what does that mean for an audit? Because $34,000, I don't care about $34,000, but what does it mean from your perspective?
As Kelly mentioned, the concern is, yes, it is not a, while it's not a huge number, it's the fact that internal controls fail. While it was a small number this time, we're afraid that if that internal control isn't assessed and fixed, that it might be a bigger number in the future.
A failure of an internal control sounds harsh, right? So what does that mean? What do you do when there's a failure of an internal control?
What we're going to do is assess the process and how it's done. We have IT professionals to do that. Once they find what the problem is, how it occurred, they will be able to provide some recommendations on how to fix it, let you know how it is handled, and hopefully we can find a reasonable solution to that. But going on to that, obviously we've stated some issues, and this is a relatively smooth audit. There are going to be problems. However, with the adding of Bow Wow Incorporated to your balance sheet, we want to make sure that we still provide a thorough audit of your company. For that reason, we do believe that we have to advise increasing the audit fee for this year. Matt is going to explain our logic behind that.
Okay, so we originally thought that the acquisition of Bow Wow would happen in 2013, which would not be within the scope of the 2012 year-end audit. When the acquisition actually occurred in December 2012, we had to we contacted Douglas Tanner to suggest an increase of audit fee of about $250,000, and in return he wanted us to give you detailed instruction of what went into that increase. Here we have a chart that illustrates, that breaks down the necessary increased audit work. I just want to highlight a couple of things. First of all, we have to increase the substantive testing. Because there is now a larger